So it would not be a crazy thought to say that the Chesapeake Bay freed more slaves than Abraham Lincoln even did. November 1st here in Maryland is actually a state holiday. It is the Maryland Emancipation Day anniversary, celebrating when the state of Maryland on November 1st, 1864, rewrote and ratified their constitution, freeing all enslaved peoples of the state. And you might say, well, wait a minute, didn't Abraham Lincoln declare the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863? He did indeed, but the funny thing about the Emancipation Proclamation is that it only applied to the rebelling Confederate states. Although many of the Northern Union states had already abolished slavery, many of the border states like Maryland, Delaware, Missouri, West Virginia had not. Because they never formally seceded from the Union, the Emancipation Proclamation didn't actually apply to them. And among these border states, Maryland was particularly unique in that we also had the highest population of freedmen in the entire country, boasting around 90,000 freedmen in the 1860s. And the reason for this was mainly economical. The Chesapeake Bay area was exploding in commerce at the time. Our unique positioning on the Chesapeake Bay allowed us to set up all kinds of ports of commerce, mainly in Baltimore City. And as the Industrial Revolution continued to set in at the time, we saw an explosion of mills, textile factories, and marine trade jobs that attracted freedmen from all over the country. There was also an oyster boom happening at that time in the Chesapeake Bay, and late in the 19th century, Chesapeake Bay was responsible for almost half the world's oyster supply. So with all this added work, you needed added workers, making Maryland and Baltimore City a hub of freedmen all across the United States. But there was almost a 1-to-1 ratio for every freedman in Maryland at the time. There was also one enslaved person, roughly 90,000 at that time. Now, when the new Constitution was sent to the House to be ratified, initial count of votes for the legislation actually fell short of passing, till the absentee ballots of the Maryland veterans off at Civil War finally received and counted. And you have to imagine that many of the white Marylanders who were all fighting the Civil War, by that point had been working alongside free blacks in the factories, mills, ports, and docks around the Chesapeake Bay, and now we're even serving with them partially in combat. So the Maryland Civil War veteran vote strongly leaned towards abolition. And on November 1st, 1864, at just over 320 extra votes, the state of Maryland became the first border state to abolish slavery, which gives us all the more reason to care a little more about the Chesapeake Bay.